Podcast, the first ever sports astrology podcast. You heard it here first. It's your girl, Kula Ray, the astrologer, and I'm actually doing a special live stream on what's going on in the world right now, the current economic pressures that we're going through, specifically the wave of layoffs and the reduction of government support programs like SNAP benefits. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. And go ahead and check out my website in the description box, qlaray.co/astrology to book your next reading. Check out the Pay What You Can tab, which has been launched today, where I'm offering 2 tiers at a lower price due to this economic recession that we are in. Okay, so you can get a 15-minute reading for $55.55 and a 30-minute reading for $77.77. So go ahead and check that out. Again, link is down in the description box below. So let's go ahead and get into it. I want to talk about what is actually triggering this ordeal. Now, of course, what's really triggering this is the shift from Pluto, right? So Pluto shifted from Capricorn to Aquarius. And historically, we can see recessions happen when this happens. What I'm saying is that we can see recessions start to activate when Pluto shifts signs. Okay, when Pluto goes from one sign to the next. Okay, when Pluto went from Sagittarius to Capricorn, that was back in 2008, and we had that recession, right? And so now we have had Pluto ingress into Aquarius last year in 2024, and that's where everything kind of started off. I really want to say around July of 2024, we were in a recession then. That was like the start of it. And then it just progressively got worse and worse and worse. So that's one indicator, just like the very basic indicator of a recession is when Pluto changes signs. Historically, if you go back in time, you guys will see that every time Pluto changed to a new sign, this is what was the result of an economic downturn, because Pluto literally rules the economy. Okay, Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio, and Scorpio rules the 8th house, which is on the financial axis, right? So it's ruling our finances and the money that we make from, our jobs, stocks, taxes, shared resources, right? So Pluto rules shared resources and, debt and all these things. So when Pluto, shifts to a different sign, debt occurs and, power dynamics, power and control issues tend to creep up and so forth and so on. So that's one indicator. Now, the key theme of this video that I want to discuss is the South Node and the North Node. So currently, we're dealing with the South Node in Virgo, and we have the North Node in the sign of Pisces. So I want to break down what's happening in our country and how it may be reflecting in the astrology here. So let's first start with the South Node in Virgo. So and guys, this is just how my brain works. So when I'm making this type of video, I'm just bringing you guys in on how I see things. Okay, this is how I interpret what's going on. Now, I'm looking at the South Node in Virgo in the second decan here. And the second decan is ruled by Saturn. Okay, so if you look at the top of the screen in the 10th house, that's Virgo. And you see that that horseshoe, that's the glyph of the South Node. It's at 17 degrees right now, and it's sitting in the Leo degree. So it's very fixed right now. It's very stubborn. And that also reflects the energy of what's going on in the collective. Like, it's like final decisions have been made, government shutdowns, SNAP benefits are going to be taken away soon. And it just kind of feels like, it's set in stone, right? That fixed energy, right? That concrete energy. So that's one part of it. Now, the transit, let's talk about that. The lunar South Node represents where we release and dismantle old patterns. And as we know, is currently transiting through the sign of Virgo. And so this is going to be actually amplified as it moves through the second decan of Virgo, which is traditionally ruled by Saturn. We can see Saturn glyph as well in the middle there, right below the Virgo glyph in the 10th house there. Okay, so I have a screenshot up on the screen. I don't have my cursor to point to it because it's just a screenshot that I'm sharing from my Sky Now chart on Ephemeris. Okay, so the correlation here is that Virgo rules labor, daily work, systems, and efficiency. So the South Node here signifies a collective pruning and restructuring of these areas. And with Saturn's influence in the second decan here, this manifests as layoffs and job market restructuring. Okay, aka a harsh Saturnian focus on efficiency and bottom lines, leading to cuts in workforces and the dismantling of certain job roles or industries. Okay. And then when you take into consideration Pluto and Aquarius, Aquarius rules technology. Okay. Aquarius, Uranus. Uranus is the planet that rules Aquarius. Uranus rules technology and the internet and new age things. And so that's why we see AI also coming into this picture because Pluto is now direct again. Pluto has been direct since the middle of October. And we're seeing, these layoffs here at the end of October and all this talk about AI, because I really believe that when Pluto was in retrograde, when Pluto started to go retrograde back in, I want to say July, they were already, companies were already, revising plans and ideas on how to incorporate AI systems into the workforce. And now that Pluto is direct as of, I want to say October 14th. So now that Pluto is direct, it's like those plans are now set and they're going directly in motion. They're now in motion, and we're seeing that now at the end of October. Do you get my drift? So this isn't something that just like fell out of the sky. They were literally doing this and thinking of this for quite some time, ever since Pluto went into Aquarius last year in 2024. But definitely this one was more significant because with this retrograde, Pluto did not go back into Capricorn. It did not go back into the traditional way that we've been doing things. It stayed in the new age realm, if you will. And so all the new ideas were sifted through so that they could stick to them. Now we see Pluto in Aquarius at 1 degrees. And so I'm really worried about the economy once Pluto ingresses into 2 degrees, because then that's when a lot of money things are going to be really, really going to be tested and transformed in a way that could force more people into debt. Okay. Now let's get back to the South Node in Virgo. So let's talk about the end of the benefits programs. Okay. So the South Node's nature is to release what is no longer sustainable. So government support programs initiated under different astrological conditions are now being systematically rolled back as the collective focus shifts. Okay. They're being systematically rolled back, which is that second decan of Virgo's Saturnian energy. Okay. Now, when we get to the North Node, let's consider the North Node in Pisces. So that means that the North Node in Pisces is also in the second decan, but the second decan for Pisces is ruled by the moon, Cancer. Okay. So the transit here, which is the opposite of this, is to release the North Node in Pisces, traveling through its second decan ruled by the moon. So the North Node points to our collective destiny and the lessons that we must grow into. The correlation here is that Pisces rules compassion, universal connection, and safety nets. The moon rules the public, our emotional needs, and basic security. So this nodal axis presents a profound collective challenge. And what is that challenge? The challenge is that we are being pushed to move from a focus on hyper efficiency, often cold systemic logic, under the Virgo South Node energy, toward a more compassionate, intuitive understanding of collective care, which is the Pisces North Node energy. Now, the tension here is that the crisis emerges as safety nets tied to public emotional and financial security are being removed, forcing a societal conversation. So the question being asked is, how do we build a new system that incorporates both practical efficiency and compassionate support? Okay. Now, the practical efficiency is the Virgo South Node area, and the compassionate support is the Pisces North Node area. Okay. So, in summary, we are in a period right now, y'all, defined by the tension between dismantling old structures of work and support, which is South Node in Virgo and the second decan of Saturn, and learning to embody a new paradigm of collective empathy and safety, which is the North Node in Pisces and the second decan ruled by the moon. So the economic headlines that we see right now are direct reflections of this powerful and often difficult rebalancing act. Okay. So this is a time for us to be mindful of these energies, to support one another, which is the Pisces North Node energy, and to think critically about how we can personally and collectively move toward the Piscean ideal of a truly supportive community. All right. Now, as we know too, the nodes, they do move retrograde. Okay. So right now, the North Node and the South Node are at 17 degrees, and they will be in 16 degrees. It will be at 16 degrees on November the 4th. Okay. So just in a few days, I believe is that Monday? Monday or Tuesday? I don't have my calendar in front of me. But 16 degrees is degree that is ruled by the moon, Cancer. So it's going to be a very emotional time. We already see it happening right now where people, you know, are losing money, losing their jobs, losing their cars. Cars are being repossessed. All kinds of things are happening. And it's going to be a very emotional time, a very emotional holiday season. And unfortunately, y'all, with the South Node being in Virgo, this is the comfort zone. Unfortunately, we are living in a capitalistic society here in America. So that kind of capitalistic energy and selling and supply and demand is very Virgo-esque. If you think about it, because Virgo rules the sixth house of work, our day-to-day work, right? So we are in America, we're used to working day to day, and the Pisces North Node element of it all is very foreign to a lot of people that live in the real world. A lot of people aren't spiritually attuned. A lot of people are selfish. A lot of people are out for themselves. They only care about themselves and their family and what they need. And there's not a lot of empathy and compassion in the world. Let's face it, right? And unfortunately, this is such a bad. It's a configuration, y'all, that was going to be fated to happen anyway. It's so interesting how the world works, right? Where Pluto is in Aquarius and then the South Node is in Virgo. So like I said, when Pluto changes signs, there's always an economic recession because Pluto rules economics, the economy, society, debt, taxes, resources from shared resources, from your job, from your business, from whatever, right? So Pluto is about transformation. So there's a transformation happening to the economy, to debts, to, you know, with the inclusion in the infusion of AI, right? And so we're having to figure out, like, how the heck does that work? Like, where do we fit into that mold? And then on top of that, we have Virgo in the comfort zone where we're all comfortable working, right? But not so much, right? Because there's a recession going on, there's less money to be paid to workers. So now it's like Virgo is really kicked into high gear in the second decan of Saturn, where it's like, what does Saturn rule? Hard work. So everybody's working real hard to survive. This is why this is happening, y'all. Everyone's working real hard to survive. Okay. But see, at some point, what's going to end up happening collectively is that we're going to realize that that is not the answer. What am I trying to say here? What I'm trying to say is that when you are so deeply ingrained, even in your own personal chart, and when you're so deeply ingrained into your South Node energy, you will notice that you are frustrated and you will never get ahead. You will never feel like you're making strides. You will never feel like you're getting a leg up on life until you break out of your comfort zone, South Node, and into into the unknown, your uncomfortability. Get uncomfortable. And that's where you're going to succeed. That's where we're going to succeed. So where we're going to succeed is with compassion, right? Supporting each other, truly having a supportive community, supporting one another, thinking critically about how we can move forward collectively, right? Because, and I keep laughing because it's not funny. It's just the way of the world that is being seen astrologically, and it's just like a pattern that has been going on and on and on and on for centuries. So that's why it is so difficult for everyone. I don't want to say everyone. I'll say for most people in the collective to see a way out of this. The only way that most people see in the United States is to just continue to work and save and survive. But I'm telling y'all, this is not the way. So let me go on to when let me give you guys a little bit more. Let me tell you about what's going to happen when the South Node and the North Node retrogrades into the first decan. Okay, let's talk a little bit about that because that is really going to also be a turning point, and I really am worried for people's mental health during that time period because it's going to get even worse if we don't even if you just take a small step in your own community and just come together with your neighbors and support one another through these terrible times, you know, you can balance things out. But see, let me tell you this before I go on to the first deacon. Let me tell you how it can backfire for people collectively and on an individual level. So a lot of people are getting pushed out of their cars through repossessions. A lot of people are getting pushed out of their homes through evictions and stuff like that, or so they think, right? So here's what's happening. People are holding on to their assets, right? People are holding on to their assets no matter what the consequences are because, like I said, people are trying to survive. So the people who are operating in the collective in the Virgo South Node energy, right, who are, being critical of others and just trying to get what they need and being, kind of, what's the word I want to use? Just kind of like looking at their own tangible outcomes and they're not being compassionate to other people, they are also going to suffer as well. I'm telling you right now, because everyone is trying to survive. The people on top are trying to survive and the people on the bottom are trying to survive. So what is that going to do? If everyone is trying to grab and hold on and everyone is, for the most part, tapped in and ingrained in capitalism, which is so Virgo. It's like your day-to-day work. Oh my God, I gotta go to work. I gotta work 9 to 5. I gotta make my money. And then people are getting laid off, right? People getting laid off and then they can't pay their bills. And then they can't pay their bills, they're gonna lose their homes. But then they're not gonna let go of their homes, right? They're gonna do whatever they can to stay in their homes, and the landlords are gonna get upset, and then, then everyone's going to court, and then the landlords are paying money for lawyers. They're losing money and they're trying to survive. Do you guys see what I'm saying? It's all a freaking domino effect. But see, with Pluto in Aquarius, what does Aquarius rule? The 11th house of the collective, friends and communities and networks. This South Node Virgo and North Node Pisces time period that we're in is literally very crucial. And I hope that the world wakes up. Okay, how do I want to say this? There's so much in my mind. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that because Pluto is in Aquarius, it's literally trying to make us change how we show up in our communities, how we show up for our friends. That's what it's trying to do. And the problem that we're seeing is that nothing is changing, right? When Pluto is in Aquarius going through this first decan here, I mean, it's going to be chaotic. It's going to be disheveling. It's going to be dysfunctional. So, just be mindful that this is just what's going to happen until we freaking get it together. Okay. Because Pluto In Aquarius, the second decan is it's going to be, so it's Aquarius, and then Mercury. Mercury is the second decan because that's Gemini. And so that's when the lines of communication will start to open up. But right now, Pluto is in the Uranian degree. Do you guys get what I'm saying? It's in the Uranian decan. Sorry, not the Uranian degree, but the Uranian decan. And what does Uranus rule? Surprise, shock, things happening out of the blue, unexpected shocks and surprising. So we are all being shell shocked in America with Pluto transiting in this first decan. And we will continue to be until Pluto gets to the second decan around the 11th, between 11 and 20 degrees. And that's when the lines of communication will start to open up, hopefully. And, we'll start to really see some change happen. Some data will come in on how we can, balance everything out and how we can support our networks and our groups and our communities. But right now we are in a perilous period where the collective just doesn't see the shift because we're so ingrained in capitalism and capitalism culture and the grind and the hustle culture that it's literally going to deteriorate us at our very core. Okay, so I'm moving on now, like I said, to when the South Node and the North Node will retrograde into the first decan. Okay, so let me talk about that because like I said, I'm very worried for people's mental health at this time, and I'll tell you why. Okay, so let's talk about that. So let's do a deep dive in the karmic shifts, which talks about critical control to spiritual surrender. Okay, so let's see here. Where do I want to begin? You know what? I'll start at the South Node. Now, I feel as though on a personal level, we may feel a strong urge to let go of rigid routines and critical self-talk in situations where we feel like we must fix everything, right? We're going to get to that breaking point once the South Node retrogrades back into that decan here, which is from like 10 to 1 degrees. Okay, so this is what's going to happen here. So we're going to feel a strong urge to let go of rigid routines, which is Virgo, and the path forward is going to involve trusting our dreams, trusting our intuition. That's Pisces. Pisces rules dreams, Pisces rules intuition, Pisces rules spirituality. So the path forward will involve trusting your dreams, okay? Engaging in profound spiritual or therapeutic work. Because again, this is going to be the Mercury decan, okay? Because then, the South Node is going to go into Leo too, down the line, a couple months from now, right? So the path forward is going to involve trusting in your intuition, engaging in profound spiritual or therapeutic work, and allowing yourself to be guided by a sense of faith and flow, even when it feels illogical. Now, because the South Node is in the second decan right now, it is very hard for the collective to do that. This is what I've been talking about this entire video. Okay? So the nodal axis with the South Node in Virgo and the North Node in Pisces is forcing a choice. It will be forcing a choice even stronger once we get to the South Node and the North Node retrograding in that first decan of those signs, and then it goes backwards into Leo and then into Aquarius. Okay, so this nodal axis is forcing a choice. The first choice we have is, are we going to cling to the exhausting control of the Virgo South Node, or are we going to take courageous, transformative plunge into the mystical unifying waters of Pisces North Node? The old world of critique and perfection, y'all, is ending. And like I said, people who are hanging on to that are also going to pay the price, because this is not going to work anymore. What we're being birthed into is the new world of soul level connection and healing. Remember, once the South Node goes into Leo, the North Node will go into Aquarius. We are being pushed into the destiny of coming togetherness. Like I said, Aquarius rules groups of people, right? Your neighbor, your network, your community, your friends, your long-term goals and long-term plans, right? Going towards those things. Okay. And so we need to move in that direction. Now, when we have the South Node and the North Node in that first decan, let's talk about society and technology. Okay. AI and the loss of human logic. So as AI masters Mercury, Virgo, data, analysis, efficiency, the uniquely human value will shift to the Piscean qualities of creativity, empathy, and spiritual connection, or they should. Okay. So jobs and skills based purely on logical analysis will be devalued. So this is where the collective compassion crisis comes into the picture that I've been talking about. Pluto in the mix here, Pluto in the mix guarantees that the move towards Pisces will not be all love and light. We see that right now. So we will be confronted as a whole with deep collective wounds that demand our compassion. Now, like I said, once I'm looking at the chart now, the North Node and Pisces, that's going to be, that North Node is Neptune. Okay, Neptune. The first decan of Pisces is ruled by Neptune. That's Pisces energy. Okay, and so what's going to happen is there could be a mental health epidemic, and the suffering of marginalized people will be impossible to ignore. So a lot of poverty coming up the pipeline, marginalized communities, suffering, because there is no compassion in the world. Let's face it, it's just not. Okay, so there will be a collective crisis here with that. And that's why I said when it comes to mental health, I'm very concerned for people as well, because that first decan of Virgo is ruled by Mercury. Mercury rules mind, the mindset, the mental. Virgo rules health. So when I think about Virgo, I think about mental health as well. Like, there will be a struggle with that on a collective level. I feel that will be on an uptick as we move forward throughout the year and into next year as well. And when the South Node and North Node reach their first decans, okay? So I don't want to make this video too long. I'll make a part 2 where I'll talk about this more concretely when the North Node and the South Node goes into the first decan. So I'll just leave it here because I don't like to make really long videos, because this is enough. Anything under 30 minutes is enough. And I'll make another video where I'm talking about the astrological forecast of the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo. So we'll talk about that at a later time. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Check out the description box to get to my website. Check out the Pay What You Can tab, which is a new tab that I have out, where you have a choice of 2 tiers. You can get a 15-minute reading for $55.55 or a 30-minute reading for $77.77. Go to QLarray.co/astrology. I'll see you guys in the next